Hi, I'm George Hussey, Dr. 914 from Automobile Atlanta, and today I'm going to show you how to rekey a 914 door latch. Over the years, from frequent use, door latches have broken, and when you bought a new one, you would get a new door latch, you'd get a new key, lock cylinder with key, and you'd simply install it and have a new key. Well, over the years, what had happened is these door latches had been switched and switched and switched again, and no longer did the key match the ignition. Porsche Volkswagen originally supplied 2 keys with every 914, actually 4, but 2 different ones. They had the red one, which was the so-called valet key, which worked the ignition and the doors only, and then they had the black key, which would work everything. Imagine letting a valet park your 914 these days. But you would give the red key to the valet, and they'd be able to park your car and lock it, but not access the glove box, not access the front hood, not access the rear trunk, and you would keep the black key yourself. The factory keys were exactly like this and no different. There were no silver keys. Those are always aftermarket. You could tell right away. You should have only 4, 2 red and 2 black keys with your car. The door latches were not universal. They were left for the side and right for the side, and you can tell by looking on the flap. This says L here, and this says R here. So what I'm going to show you is the differences between some of these door latches and then how to rekey. What I have here is different door latches with different problems, and also left and right door latches. I have some new replacement parts that are now made. I have a door latch that somebody tried to fix with no success. And I have a variety of different, what we call wafers, in which to rekey. These are available as a set on eBay if you ever want to rekey yours. The failure of most of these door latches is the cam slider. As you can see, this little white thing right here pushes on the interior latching mechanism to open the door. Many people call and said, George, I can't open my door from the outside, and when I lock and unlock, it doesn't make any difference. It acts like it's locked all the time. Well, what has happened is this little slider breaks. Either it breaks a leg here or it breaks right there, and no longer can you open your door. Well, Porsche didn't ever make this part separately. We did. This is the very, very first part we ever made, and it was to repair the door latch, and it's made out of nylon 11, so we guarantee it for life, and we've never, ever had a warranty. Plus, we bevel the round peg here to make it easy to install, so it's a snap once you take the door latch off the car. The other ways these fail is that the stud breaks from over-tightening. As you can see, there's the correct stud. Or the door latch base breaks off, and I'm going to show you that. This is like a little puzzle here. The door latch base breaks off right here because they're opening it and straining it all of the time, We made a replacement for that also, and if you can look here, we reinforced the piece where it breaks all the time. So we put a reinforcement there. You may be able to see it a little bit better from right here. Where it goes right here, we put a big reinforcement there, and we've never had a problem with this breaking. So that's another solution to the door latch without having to buy a very expensive one. But these days, now they're made in China, so you can buy a new door latch for a very inexpensive price. So finally, we get to the actual rekeying. I'm going to put these, one other thing I'm going to say. Because somebody didn't realize that this cam was available, you can see some of the extremes they went to try to make this work again. This guy, whatever the sleeve he put on here, a piece of metal, and secured it with a screwdriver, it actually looks like a piece of plumbing, plastic plumbing pipe with 2 screws. Totally ridiculous when it was so easy just to put this piece in. But there were many different solutions like that. So with that, we'll now get to the rekeying of a door latch, and I'll just pick one here. I'll just pick this one right here. I'm going to put these aside. So I always key on the black key. The red key has different lines in it, and that's how it differentiates between unlocking one like the ignition and not locking the other like the trunk. So I put the black key in here, and it goes in all the way, and it will not turn whatsoever because I just chose a random key, and it's a little hard to get in there because it needs lubrication. So I leave the key in there, and just say this is your door latch and it doesn't match the ignition key. Get your ignition key, put it in there, and then go to the back. You've already taken it off by unscrewing the Allen bolt inside the door and the small 10 millimeter headed bolt on the outside of the door. Make sure you don't over tighten this when you put it back in there. So I'm going to take the cam out here, and I'm going to watch this because there's a spring on there, and it's a flat slot screw. Later ones on the later door latches were Phillips, and I'm going to ease this off because there's a spring in it. You can see the spring right here. It could have popped away. Make sure you take it carefully because it could fly off. And then I'm going to remove the lock cylinder, and this one comes out easily. Sometimes you actually have to tap these with a tiny little brass drift because they're so dry and corroded. I'm going to pull this out here. Notice the original, what's left of it, the original seal, weather strip seal is still on there, but now it's all flaked off. And now if you'll notice close up, we have some of these wafers that are higher and some that are actually lower, but higher on the other side. And this one's not so bad. But the key, so to speak, is to get them all to be uniform with the cylinder, because by sticking up like that, that's why it won't turn. So the first thing I do here is I pull my rag up here. I'm going to keep that. And I lubricate this to make it easier to work with some of this Worth HHS, which is a penetrant that turns to a light grease eventually. So I'm using it right now as like a penetrant, and I put it on both sides. And now I hold these wafers because there's springs up underneath them. And then I put some of this in there also. And I work this just a little bit, just so it frees itself up, in and out a little bit. And then I look for the very, very highest pin first, and I see this right here. So I hold it, and I withdraw it, and I pull that pin out. I just grab it with my 2 fingernails, and I pull it out, and it's a high pin. And this is the height right here. These pins are numbered 1 to 4. Usually you'll see a number on the pin, and it's the height of the head right here. I'm going to actually look for a pin with a smaller head size. Here's one. So you can see this, the head on this pin is smaller than that pin. So I'm going to try this, and I see that that's nice. So now my next pin is right here, which is too high, and I'm going to pull that out. Just check that again. My eyesight's going bad in my old age. Put that in several times to check the pin, holding it each time. And I see 1, 2, the third pin right there. 1, 2, 3. Make sure this key is in all the way also. I'm going to pull this pin out right here, and I'm going to put a thicker one in and see how that does. And that solved that, it looks like. And you have to look at it on both sides, and it's always the pin that will come out where the spring is, so there's a little round hole right there. So that's the side you're going to concentrate on for the height of the pin. So I look very carefully, and I see that these are all decent. I'm lucking out here. I don't have to replace that many, but the first one's too high. So I'm going to pull this out, and since it's too high, I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to get a one with not such a high hat on it. You can put that in, and that fits perfectly. So I've really, again, like I said, I've lucked out. I've not had to replace that many pins so far. But I see now on the other side, I've got a low pin. So this is going to need actually a higher hat. So I'm going to pull that out. And I see that it is a low hat, so I'm going to look over here for one with a higher hat. And again, they go 1 through 4, they're measured, so you don't really have to guess. This is not the correct one. This is actually a pin for a 924. So I'm going to look for one with a higher hat on it. I wanted to take a brief intermission here to tell you that there will be some periods of rain for the rest of the video, so just bear with us if you wouldn't mind. Thanks. The higher hats are always the ones that are hardest to find for some reason. As the keys wear, put that in there, and that solved that. And now I've got this one right here, which is a little low, so I need a higher hat on that one. A little look here. This is probably correct. Again, 1 through 4. You don't have to guess. If it's a 3 and you need a higher hat, you get a 4. Put that in there. That solves that. And again, I can't see very well. I'm going to try it, but maybe not. No, still not. I've got something. I'm almost there, though. Oh, this pin right here. This pin is too low. So I need a higher hat on it. Since this is too low, another higher hat. I'm going to try this. Now it looks like I got it too high, so I'm going to just try just a little bit lower, and then we should be set. I've done this so many times that I really don't have to guess much anymore. I can see this pin is a little lower. I just try it anyway, still not. And by doing that, you can sort of see where one of the pins sticks. It's this one right here, which is too low. So I'm going to pull this out, and I need a higher hat for that one too. And that's a pretty big hat already, so I'm going to really have to struggle to find one with a real high hat on it. Because again, these locks wear, there's one. These locks wear, and it seems like the higher hatted ones are the hardest to find. And this is just got a perfectly high hat on it, but it's a 924 pin, so that won't work. And don't lose the springs. Be careful. Notice I'm always holding this, so I won't lose the springs. I'm going to try this again and see. Now there we go. So I've got it. I'm going to lube it up a little bit. Another thing is, you've got to try to do this with a factory key. You do this with an aftermarket key, and these locksmith monkeys don't cut it quite right, and you can't ever find the correct pin to fit. One's a little too high, one's a little too low, like the Goldilocks of pins. Look how easily that works now. And I make sure. So, and I don't do this myself. I get a new key cut, but what you could do is you could get a file. If one is a little too high and you can't fix it, you could shave it a little bit with a file until it's even, and then you could put it back in. So now my ignition key works with my exterior door latch, and I'm just overjoyed to not have a whole bunch of keys. And then I put the cam back, and I stretch this with my fingernail back into place. And I carefully hold it so it won't spring off and hit me in the eye. And then I put the cam carefully back in here. Make sure it's locked in all the way. And my screw. Notice there's a little cone washer in there to secure the screw from backing off. And I don't crank it, I just snug it up like that. And now I have, like I said, I have a perfectly working lock and key. George Hussey, Automobile Atlanta, we did it again.